The source materials for this presentation are found in Wolters Kluwer, Master Techniques in Otolaryngology, Head and Neck Surgery, in the Neurotology and Skull-Based Surgery Edition, Chapter 26. The title of the chapter is Expanded Transtemporal Approach for Large Cerebellopontine Angle Tumors. We designed this technique specifically to address the largest CP angle tumors by combining a translabyrinthine approach with a subtotal petrosectomy. Together, these provide the widest possible angle of exposure and the most complete visualization of the cerebellopontine angle. Because these operations are long and complex, we often divide them into two stages, the approach and then the tumor removal. In the chapter, I outline the strategy and advantages of this technique, and you can find a reprint of the full text on my website, www.andrewfishmanmd.com. Now, let's look at the first diagram. Panels A and B. Panel A shows the intact canal wall exposure, the facial nerve, highlighted in yellow, the lateral semicircular canal in light blue, and the sigmoid sinus in dark blue. The label MF identifies the middle fossa dura. Panel B shows the next stage of dissection, exposing the posterior semicircular canal, the endolymphatic sac, the superior petrosal sinus, and the jugular bulb. This completes the first step of the transtemporal drill out before moving on to the subtotal petrosectomy. Once this exposure is complete, we proceed to the labyrinthectomy. In Panel A, note the superior ampullated end of the superior semicircular canal, the crus commune on the left, and the openings of the ampullated and non-ampullated limbs of the lateral canal. Beneath the facial nerve is the single opening of the posterior canal. When viewed from beneath the horizontal facial nerve segment, the open vestibule forms a shape like a lowercase a. In the next figure, you can see the complete translabyrinthine exposure, with the internal auditory canal fully drilled out. The bone has been removed from both the middle and posterior fossae, exposing the sigmoid sinus and the jugular bulb. Just below the IAC labeled CA is the cochlear aqueduct. Now we begin the subtotal petrosectomy. In Panel A, the external auditory canal is removed, drilling down to expose the middle ear. The eardrum ossicles and canal skin are excised. In Panel C, the eustachian tube is plugged and the canal is blind sacked and overclosed to complete the petrosectomy. The next panel shows the oversewn canal. Because the tumor removal will be staged later, the cavity is filled with abdominal fat and the sigmoid sinus is covered with gel foam, preventing adhesion. I prefer to stage these cases about 1 week to 10 days apart, allowing the eustachian tube closure and canal seal to mature, reducing any chance of CSF leak. If there is mild facial nerve weakness after the first stage, it's best to re-enter within 24 hours, while the nerve remains stimulable for monitoring. If the weakness is dense, it's wiser to wait for recovery before proceeding with the second stage. This technique evolved from the older transotic approach, but in our version, the cochlea is preserved. Preserving the cochlea maintains facial nerve blood supply, and by avoiding early dissection near the stylomastoid foramen, we protect the stylomastoid artery. For this reason, postoperative facial nerve weakness from the approach itself is exceedingly rare. Now we move to the second phase of the operation. The fat graft has been removed and the internal auditory canal, labeled IAC, has been fully delineated, along with the labyrinthine segment of the facial nerve labeled LFN. When the exposure is complete, the posterior fossa dura is opened using an H-shaped incision, and the superior and inferior flaps are gently tacked laterally for a clean, stable field. The tumor is then centrally debulked. In Panel A, note that the IAC dura remains intact. Keeping the canal closed at this stage provides structural support to the facial nerve while the intracranial portion of the tumor is removed. It is critical not to open the IAC dura until the very end, when only the canal portion of the tumor remains. In Panel B, you can see the lower cranial nerves labeled LCN and the vertebral artery. An arachnoid plane is carefully preserved between these structures and the tumor's inferior pole. In Panel C, the tumor is being gently elevated off the brainstem, maintaining the delicate arachnoid layer that protects the small perforating arteries on the brainstem surface. In the next sequence, Panels A, B, and C, most of the tumor has now been removed. The entire intracranial component, the part compressing the brainstem, has been taken out first. Only the portion within the internal auditory canal remains. In Panel A, I have opened the IAC dura and am removing the final fragments of tumor. In Panel B, the facial nerve within the canal is identified and dissected from lateral to medial. In panel C, only a minute remnant remains at the anterior superior border of the porus acousticus, where the tumor and nerve are most densely adherent. In many large tumors, complete removal of this final adhesion is not feasible. The goal is to debulk to a submillimeter residual, protecting the facial nerve's continuity. If the nerve continues to stimulate normally, further gentle dissection may proceed. If thresholds rise or responses fade, signs of neuropraxia, the dissection should stop. At this point, more than 99% of the tumor volume has already been safely removed. Once the tumor is out, the H flaps are closed with a single supporting suture across their midpoint. A watertight seal cannot be achieved, but this suture prevents the fat graft from herniating into the posterior fossa. The fat is positioned so that anterior and posterior lobes gently cork the opening, supported by the suture bridge. A vascularized pericranial flap is rotated over the fat, and the wound is closed in multiple layers to achieve the best possible seal. Now let's review a case example. The preoperative MRI shows a massive cerebellopontine angle tumor with marked brainstem compression and shift. This patient presented with acute brainstem symptoms, and the procedure was staged 1 week apart after stabilization. Even the first stage, simply removing the bone, provided partial posterior fossa decompression, allowing the brainstem to relax before tumor removal. At the 3-month follow-up, the patient shows excellent facial nerve symmetry and full eye closure, with only a very slight increase in eyelid opening, a House-Brackman grade 2 outcome. Finally, we'll view the operative video, showing the main stages of tumor removal following the bony exposure. For a detailed look at the transtemporal drilling technique, please see the other videos available on this channel. Thank you. Now let's watch some video.
The transtemporal dissection has been completed. You can see the internal auditory canal, the posterior fossa dura, the middle fossa dura, and the sigmoid sinus. The external auditory canal has been removed and the facial nerve fully preserved. The posterior fossa dura has been opened, and we are carefully dissecting the arachnoid plane off of the posterior aspect of the tumor. The tumor is then centrally debulked, leaving a thin shell so that it can be more easily mobilized off of critical structures on the brainstem and off of the cranial nerves. The arachnoid plane is carefully maintained in order to separate the lower pole of the tumor from the lower cranial nerves and important brainstem vasculature. You can see the vertebral artery up anteriorly and separated from the tumor. Once the entire intracranial portion of the tumor has been removed, the very last segment of the procedure involves carefully separating the tumor remnant from the internal auditory canal from the facial nerve. I use gentle dissection and continuous monitoring with an EMG stimulator to achieve a total removal of this very large tumor. Facial nerve anatomic and electrical integrity is verified by the use of a continuous EMG facial nerve monitoring system. Here I am stimulating the facial nerve at its root entry zone into the brainstem, confirming anatomic and electrical integrity.